Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have to start thinking about a new way to bring the show in. You're listening to the Nick and Joe Show. I'm Joe, he's Nick. I'm in the studio here. Nick's out on the farm, and but we've really solved Nick some ongoing issues that we've had with microphones and communication, and so I'm quite pleased with the way things have gone. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to segment number 4 of the Nick and Joe Show for this week. If you have not listened to the other 3 half-hour segments, go back and catch them on the podcast. We are on virtually every podcast network that's out there. iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. It just goes on and on and on.
Spreaker, whatever.
But the easiest way to get us, of course, is to go to ThinkRadio.ca and then click on the Nick and Joe Show, or you can actually log into the nickandjoeshow.com and you'll end up at the same page. So, and then you can listen to us on past shows, etc. That's the way to do it. But do go, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to those old ones that you enjoyed so much. Tell your friends and neighbors about us. We want listeners.
Especially if you don't like us.
Especially if you don't like us. And if you don't forget, you can leave comments. You don't have to be in the chat room during live broadcasts to leave a comment, because you can leave comments in the same way that you leave a comment in the chat room. You just click on the comment button, the comment bubble in the player, register if you have to, log in if you have to, and then criticize us and call us names to your heart's content. As long as you remember, sticks and stones, we don't care what you call us.
No, we'll even take late for dinner.
Yes.
All right.
And, now, Nick, I was having breakfast with somebody the other day, and he was just singing the praises of this South Dakota governor?
Yes.
Who was a keynote speaker at the Conservative Union, at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee, or conference, I should say, which was held in Orlando, Florida this year. It's the first time in my memory that it was not in Washington. But I take it was easier to hold it in Florida than it was to hold it in Washington. So I haven't been for a few years. It is, my friends, if you have an opportunity to go once in your life to CPAC in the United States, it's always February or early March. By all means, go. It is a tremendous experience. You get to network with people from around the world, mostly Americans, but from around the world, conservatives. The trade show there in political, advertising, communications devices, it is such an amazing event. I highly recommend it. So there you go. And they are not paying me for that advertisement.
No, they're not. But it's worth the endorsement anyway. I watched the governor of South Dakota give his speech. The speech ran about 28, 29 minutes. It was one of the best speeches I've heard in a long time. And I know that because the Washington Post hated it. And if they hate it, it's a good one. Even they had to admit that running it through fact check, she got it pretty much right. There was only one thing they said was flat out wrong. I can't remember what it was, but most of it was mostly or accurate when they ran it through fact check. So that tells you something. The governor's name is, she's a woman. Her name is Kristi Noem, Noem. She's a Republican, and she's been governor since 2019. And she's now 49 years old. She's married, has 3 kids. I mean, this woman is just an incredible... first of all, she's a great speaker. I mean, she's no Winston Churchill, but she certainly is comfortable. Especially, it's not hard. You would expect that of someone in her position to be comfortable in front of crowds and giving speeches. But she really did lay it out. And she talked about their response to COVID and how they went about it and what the stats were and these kinds of things. But the one thing I want to key on was during her speech, she talked about how effective Trump's policies were that he didn't get credit for because the press was too busy trying to tear him to pieces, and as much as they they may have think they were successful, I don't think it did nearly as much damage to him, certainly not personally, as they would like to think. But she also went on to talk about something I think is even far more important, that in South Dakota, first of all, she said, I am the governor of South Dakota. Now, for those of you who are geographically challenged, that means I'm the governor of the warmer one. South Dakota, of course, borders North Dakota, so it would be warmer by a degree or two. But she was just being, she really got the crowd laughing over that one. And then went on to talk about, towards the end of her speech, she was talking about how they need more people who are conservative to step up and step into politics. And the reason I picked up on that is because in the United States, there is a separate movement that is conservative in and of itself. It's not political. It tends to vote Republican because Republicans, generally speaking, and I say this in a broad sense, are conservative, or at least play to the conservative base. They're not. They might not be conservative themselves, but they certainly play to that base. Unlike in Canada, where if we were to do something similar, we'd hear, "Oh my good God, stop talking like that because we'll never win." Well, who is we? They're talking about the Canadian Conservative Party or the Conservative Party of Canada or the provincial version thereof. And people in Canada tend to unite the two into one entity. And she was making a very strong point, saying, no, they're two separate things. Being a conservative does not mean you always vote the same way. But it does mean that you come at life from a conservative perspective. And I know, Joseph, you and I have talked about this before, how we need to have a movement like that here in Canada for people to go out and talk about being conservative and why it's the best way to look at life and sell it on a person-to-person, face-to-face basis, and pay no attention to what the federal conservatives are doing, because it doesn't matter to us. We're going to live a certain way, and we have certain reasons for believing what we believe and standing up for what we stand up for. And that argument, that debate needs to happen. And it won't happen with political parties. It'll happen on doorsteps. It'll happen in bars. It'll happen over beer, or a barbecue. When somebody says, well, why are you a conservative? You better have an answer. And I'm extrapolating that from what she said. And to me, I couldn't agree with her more, because when I tell people I'm a conservative, they think, oh, you Harper lover. Well, no, it has nothing to do. I was a conservative long before Stephen Harper ever showed up. I was a conservative long before Pierre Poliver or Aaron O'Toole or any of these other guys showed up. I'm a conservative because that's my worldview. And then to explain how my worldview is not what you see in the mainstream media. And to be able to do that, I think that's what people need to start doing, is not being afraid of having that debate, that argument.
Yeah, and you have to have it, we've talked about this before, Nick. You have to have it in a non-political environment. That doesn't mean that we ignore the politics, but politics is different. The needs and the aims and the goals and the strategies, the tactics of political parties, they're different than a political movement or an ideological movement. And I use the term ideological very loosely because the truth is that conservatism is probably the least ideological of all of the political political ideologies that are out there. We are pro-liberty, but we're not extremists when it comes to liberty. We're anti-anarchy, so we believe in ordered liberty. We believe in an objective moral order to the universe. We believe in natural law. There are lots of things that we could talk about, and we ought to be talking about these things and expanding the depth, the reach of conservatism as a movement, as a particular approach to life and to philosophy, to political decisions, to virtually every decision that one makes. But we're not doing that in this country, and that's really regrettable. And I would like to see people stepping forward and, taking the initiative and saying that they would like to be able to participate in something like this. And if they did, I would be very happy to help. As I've told you, Nick, on many occasions, I'm happy to help. Clean the bus, paint the bus. I'll help put fuel in the bus. I'll try my best to help get people on the bus. I'll get on the bus myself, but I don't want to drive the bus. So, we're looking for people out there. This is a good opportunity right now to say, people, get involved. But don't just get involved in the political party. Get involved in community organizations. Get involved in starting a small chapter, a conservative discussion group in your community. 1 or 2 or 3 people. I'd be happy to do some Zoom calls with people who are interested in doing this, to recommend some very, very good books. And to participate in some of these, just a coffee thing, a handful of people just getting together in a local community. It's a very doable thing, but this is what we need to do. We need to, as you say, Nick, we need to expand our movement. We need to build it, and the politics will follow along. But let's not make the mistake of looking to the political party and to politicians to be the leaders of our movement, because their agenda is different. It's probably a mistake to even say that they're allies. Let's call them co-belligerents, okay? They're co-belligerents. I
like that, co-belligerents.
In this battle of ideas.
The thing I want to underscore what you're saying is, if people in general start these conversational groups and define what it is to be a conservative, and talk about what it means as far as lifestyle is concerned, what it means as far as how you handle your money, all these things, the Conservative Party will follow along. Politicians don't lead, they follow. They follow whichever way the wind blows. So every morning they wet their fingers, stick it up in the air, and see which side dries first. And that's the direction they go off in. So if you want to make a particular political party change direction, then show them what direction they should change in. And that, in this case, is to become more conservative. Understanding that, high taxes are a problem. Government regulation is a problem, and we want it addressed. But you do it from the point of view of a conversation amongst friends, and even sometimes people who are curious, or in other cases, people who are downright belligerent. And you just have to learn how to handle yourself and not make enemies where you don't already have some, or try to make friends that were enemies, and show them that, conservatives are not the child-eating monsters that the mainstream media would have you believe. That, we're people like everybody else. We have our wants and our desires, and we just think the world should be run in a little different way than it's being run now, and be open to conversations. And I think that's really important. It really is, as far as getting things done so that we could start to, I hesitate to use the word tidal wave, but a shift, a groundswell in an understanding of what it is to be a small c conservative. In other words, a classic liberal. To get into, say, a book discussion group that